basically these mortared kind of lines, mortar lines. I think we can make these a bit more rugged. Trying to see if I've got an appropriate brush here. Probably not the best brush. I'll just go in with it's the only thing when you've got 1,000,001 different brushes, it's kind of hard to find a specific brush. I think the one I'm looking for is this. Let's have a look. Seems to be working okay. So as you could use any brush you wanted to do this bit, but actually let's try this brush. Yeah, it's a good one. This is like a kind of a rectangular, wedge shaped brush. It's good. It's actually good for hard surface stuff. This, it's very versatile. So we can go in and just make these lines a bit more haphazard. Literally go in and just kind of mess it up. Just looking for kind of irregularity, you know, so they're not all just perfectly straight kind of lines. And this would depend on how clean versus kind of I guess noisy or kind of rough the mortar or the cement is. Probably be a good idea to go look at a whole bunch of actual brick walls. So you can see, right, I want to create that type. It's like aged and rugged, or is it nice and neat and very clean? And I'm creating like, it's kind of semi-cleanish, but I want a little bit of irregularity in these lines. And I just noticed I'm going to have a line down the bottom there. Full screen that again. Right. So it's looking better. It's not so kind of a pristine, kind of clinically clean. A bit of roughness, a bit of variance in the cement, which you often get in like real brick walls. It tends to bubble out, and because you know, you may have seen builders creating brick walls. You know, they put I think they probably put an initial kind of cement line down, then put the bricks on the floor, then they do the next layer and put squish, just kind of press it on. And of course that causes the cement to kind of expand out. It kind of bubbles over the side a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll do. In our base, I'll just create a layer above the base, but it's still below, you know, the mortar lines. And this is where having a whole buttload of kind of just random textures. Turn my opacity back on. So we can go to a darker kind of a darker tone. This is a way you can just go absolutely mental with all your there's loads of different brushes. I'm having trouble trying to find an appropriate brush here, but this is a pretty good one. It's just like can't remember what I created this from, but you know, most of my texture brushes are from like photographs of just noise in general. You know, it may be like an extremely high resolution image of something where it's got loads of like kind of granular bits in it, and I'll just kind of create a brush from that. And then this, just depending on how high contrast you make them, depends on if it's going to be a good kind of like, you know, trying to think, if it places down a lot of gradiated tone, or if it's high contrast, it'll do these kind of sharp kind of detailed stamps, I suppose. Try it a little bit darker. As you can see, it creates like really sharp detail here. Right. Now what we can do is suggest maybe some shadowed areas here. Oops, need a dark tone here. You know, because under these areas here, there's going to be a little bit of shadow. Because remember, this is where the brick is kind of depressing into like, you know, into like where the mortar is. So it's actually kind of receding away from us. It's a little bit dark. I love the soft round brush. It's really awesome for just creating gradients. It's also really, you know, if you go to like a smaller brush size, it's really good for just detailing. So what I like to do is, you know, for example, if I create like a dot there, you go with like a lighter tone, and depending on where your lights come from, I think we'll just default to like top down here. You know, you create a little bit of light on the underside here, and it makes it look like the light is kind of catching this edge here, and it just makes it really bump into 3D. It's really cool. I tend to get carried away with it, you know, I can spend way too long doing that. But try and not get carried away with that. You know, you can even create a brush that does that for you. I might as well show you that as well. For example, what you can do, let's create it under there. What we'll do is grab one of those. Actually, what's this? Weird wispy thing. For example, one of them, where it's like a sharp, kind of dark, what would you call it, like just indent brush. And then what you do is duplicate that, press Ctrl I to invert it, then move it down, but move it below that previous layer. What you have is like that instant kind of effect I was talking about earlier, and just merge them down. Oh. What you can do is press N to get your smudge brush. Just kind of smudge those together a little bit more, and that just, it creates that effect of, you know, the light hitting it from whatever angle. But instead of having to sit there and paint it manually, you can just create a whole bunch of brushes, you know, like brush marks like that, and just lay them. Oh. Yeah. There we go. It creates that kind of instant effect I was talking about earlier without you having to sit there and actually paint it. You can do this with any texture brush really. No, I showed you that. I think it's this one. Yeah, I was showing you this earlier. So again, you just duplicate that, invert it by pressing Ctrl I, move it down. You can move, this is like the light layer, so we move that below the dark layer. And there you go, instant kind of light bumpy effect. I'm not sure if there's like a technical term for it. It's just like, it's just kind of like a quick kind of optical illusion to give the impression of kind of like three-dimensional detail very, very quickly. It's really awesome. You can even like turn that into a brush. You know, if you it kind of depends like where your light's coming from. You know, for this kind of a brick wall, we're just going to default to it coming down. You know, like a top-down light situation. This gives us that effect of kind of bumpy texture. You know, very quickly using just texture brushes, you can very quickly create your own just by hand painting. Essentially, you're just using them as stamps, you know, to create noise, you know, like visual noise, and it just looks like bumpy texture. I have to admit, I do like just hand painting that effect. It's more satisfying. Just depends on which way you want to do it. It's probably best to like create a whole bunch of noise like that, and then, you know, do that duplication technique I was showing you, where one layer is like white, the other's like dark or black, whatever. It just creates that instant kind of bumped effect. But personally, I like doing it manually. You know, if you're doing like cracks and stuff, it's probably easier just to do it by hand. It's drawing a dark kind of crack like that. And just do lighter shade on the underside. Brings it into 3D. All I'll do is just vary that a bit more. Create darker areas in certain bits. So it looks like the depth of the crack is kind of varied. Yeah, it's just that alternating light and dark that makes things pop into 3D. It's really kind of cool when you think about it. All there really is. See, it's starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional. Yeah, I think the top part needs to be lighter. Yeah, I think that looks better. Yeah, I like the way that looks better. Looked a bit funny with the top bit dark. And basically we're going to do the same thing with the mortar, just to give that texture as well. Personally, I love doing stuff like this. It's very very addictive. Just painting in noise upon noise, and you know, little details. That's essentially what detail is, isn't it? Noise. It's just when you see lots of little bits of, I don't know, just granularization, noise, it just looks like detail. But yeah, all my vast majority of my texture brushes are created from photographs, which I'll show you that in like another part to this tutorial. It's also good to do stuff like this because then you know it's definitely yours and you're not gonna get hit with like copyright issues if you've taken the time to create a whole bunch of you know, textures that are definitely yours because you made them. And of course you could get as gnarly and as kind of weathered as you want with these guys. Mine's gonna be not a mega weather beaten, but you know, it's been there maybe 10 or 20 years. It's looking a little bit weathered, but it's not like mega falling apart or anything. You can create a whole bunch of different kind of brick types. Bricks appear everywhere, don't they? They're used in the vast majority of places. Because if you create a big selection of different bricks, different types of wall, like what else would you have, like stone slabs, that type of thing, then you can just mash them into your painting and you don't have to worry about trying to find, you know, the right type of whatever. Just kind of like, I want a brick wall, look in your selection and just bash it in there. Obviously if you were working on like a production piece, you obviously wouldn't do this while you're trying to work on something. You do this in your spare time. You know, then you'd probably resort to like photo bashing and that kind of thing. But if you're not keen on like 4 textures, because you know not all artists like doing it. I mean, I have to admit I wasn't keen on it at first. I thought it was kind of cheating in a way, but you know, if you do feel like guilty about using like photo textures and stuff, you know, create a bunch of texture brushes, and it'll just help you create your own. Create your own texture brushes, you know, kind of tiling textures that you've hand painted. Because the way I use them is essentially like texture stamps, where you're just stamping down noise, and it looks like you just build up the illusion of of like a textured surface. But anyway, we're coming up on the 20-minute mark on this, so this is more of just the same, to be honest. It's me kind of hacking away at this, you know, with brushes and stuff. So in the next part, we'll probably go on into detailing the mortar and creating the actual brush from this. So yeah, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.